Okay guys, so today what we're talking about is using an area model to find the dimensions as a product and the area as a sum. So let's look up here at number one. We did this whenever we did distributive property the last time, but this time what we're doing is we're using the area model given that there are also variables. So remember when we were doing this, we had to find the area of a rectangle, which area is equal to base times height or length times width. Either one will work. I use base times height, so that's the one that I'm going to say the most. So if I'm trying to find the total height, that would be my total height right here, which would be 2. So that is my height. Then I also need to find my base. So my base is going to be this base plus this base, which would be x plus 6. Now, if I want to find just the area of this first rectangle, I'm going to multiply the height times the base, which would get 2 times x, or 2x. If I wanted to find the area of the second rectangle, I would do my height times my base of 6, which will give me 2 times 6, which is 12. Now, you can see this. They've already have it written for us, which is great. So this would be my height. And as you remember, it's the height plus the total length of the base times the height, which is x plus 6. Now, if you wanted to write it as, this would be as the product. If you wanted to write it as a sum, you could do 2x plus 12, which is on the inside. There's 2 ways to write this. All right, so let's look at number 2. We are given the area, so we can go ahead and write in as a sum. We know that it's 5x plus 20, but we have to figure out what can I multiply by 5 to get me to 5x. Well, I can multiply 5 times x, which is what it is. Then I have to figure out what can I multiply by 5 to get me to 20. Well, 5 times 4 gets me to 20. So then if I want to write this as a product, then I need to do my height with 5 times x plus 4, because I'm adding the total width of my base. So let's look at the next one. We have 6x plus 48, because I'm looking at my area here. So I'm trying to figure out what can I multiply, what would be my height for this one? Well, it would be 6, because I know that 6 is a factor of 6x and it's a factor of 48. X is not a factor of 48, so I can't put x here, although it is a factor of 6x. But I can multiply 6 times x to get me to 6x, as well as 6 times 8 to get me to 48. So if I wanted to rewrite this as a product, my height is 6, and the total width of my base would be x plus 8. All right, I want you to do number 4, and I will wait on you. All right, that's what you should have for this problem. Okay, so let's move down to the next couple of problems. So you are going to fill in the missing dimensions for the expression that's already given. So they have already given us the expression as a sum. So I can go ahead and fill that in. So let's look at this one. It looks a lot like this next problem. So we know that our area of the first square is going to be 5x. And we know the area of the second square will be 35. They already have given us the height of 5, because remember, we multiply 5 times this length plus this length, because we're adding together to get the total length. So what can I multiply by 5x to get me, by 5 to get me 5x? I can multiply x times 5 to get me 5x. Same thing for here. What can I multiply by 5 to get me to 35? So then I would add x plus 7 to get me to my expression as a product. All right, I want you to do number 6. Go. All right, so you should have 2 times x plus 6, x and 6 being your 2 lengths of your base of each of your rectangles, and then when you add them together and multiply it by 2, it should give you 2x plus 12. All right, so let's keep moving. So this one is a little bit different. I remember that our operations, we had a funeral for subtraction, so we need to add the opposite for 21. So this is not negative, or it will be negative 21, but we're going to add the opposite here. So if you even want to rewrite this, this could be 3x plus negative 21. So if I'm looking at this as 3x plus negative 21, it's going to change, it's going to change what the inside of my area model looks like. So I have 3x and negative 21. Because remember, we always have to add these two together because we're taking this total length and we're not subtracting or taking away a length, but we're adding those two lengths together. All right, so for this one, what is a common factor of 3 and negative 21? Well, it's 3. What could I multiply by 3 to get me to 3x? I can multiply x. So this one's a little bit different. What could I multiply by 3 to get me to negative 21? Now remember, if we remember our product integer operation rules, we know that when we multiply two numbers with one of them positive and one of them negative, the product will be negative. So I know that this number has to be a negative number because my product is negative. So 3 times negative 7 would get me to negative 21. So then if we want to rewrite this as a product, our height is going to be 3, and then we are going to add x plus negative 7, or we could rewrite this as 3 times x minus 7. All right, let's keep going. All right, I want you to try this one by yourself, number 8 by yourself. Go. Alright, so I rewrote this as 7x plus negative 21. So when I fill this in, it should be 7x and negative 21. Then I'm trying to find a common factor of 7 and 21, which would give me 7. So what can I multiply by 7 to get me 7x? That should give me x. And remember, I'm adding these together because I want to find the total length of the base. Then I have to find what can I multiply by 7 to get me negative 21. And we remember this from over here. So I can multiply negative 3, because 7 times negative 3 would get me to negative 21. So then if I rewrote this as a product, my height would be 7, positive 7, and then that is being multiplied by x plus negative 3. And then if we want to look at this, we could use the distributive property to check our work. So 7 times x gets me 7x. 7 times negative 3 gets me negative 21. I know that I'm good to go. All right, now number 9 is a little bit different. So they have already given us that the height is negative 3. So let's go ahead and fill that in. And remember, we are going to add the opposite. So this is going to be negative 3x plus negative 15. So I can go ahead and fill in negative 3x and negative 15. All right, so if I am trying to do the same thing as I've done before, don't let the negatives freak you out. If I'm trying to find what can I multiply by negative 3 to get me to negative 3x, I know using my rules over here that I can multiply that by positive x. It cannot be negative x because that means that this term would be positive, and it is not. So it is negative. So then I'm trying to figure out what can I multiply by negative 3 to get me to negative 15. Now this is negative 15, so it would be positive 5. So then if I'm rewriting this, my height is negative 3, and my two bases are x plus 5. Which would get me the answer of negative 3x minus 15 over here. So let's look at the distributive property. If I do negative 3x times x, that would give me negative 3x. If I did negative 3 times positive 5, that would give me to negative 15, which is what we have here. All right, I want you to try number 10 by yourself. Go. Okay, let's do this one together. So I know that my inside here will be negative 5x and positive 45. So I'm trying to figure out what is a common factor of negative 5 and positive 45. So why don't we can either use negative 5 or we could use positive 5. Either one of these will work. So let's use positive 5. So if I have positive 5, I need to figure out what I can multiply by positive 5 to get me to negative 5x, which would give me negative x. Then I need to see what can I multiply by positive 5 to get me to positive 45, which would give me 9. So if I did that, I would add these two together. My base would be 5. My height would be 5, and my base would be negative x plus positive 9. Oops, I forgot my negative sign. There we go. Negative x plus positive 9. Now, say that we wanted to do this. I'm just going to draw me a quick box over here and have my boxes at the top. Say that I wanted to use negative 5 here. Say that I want to use negative 5 here. If I wanted to use negative 5 here, I need to figure out what I can multiply by negative 5 to get me to negative 5x, which would be positive x. Same for here. I would need to see what I can multiply by negative 5 to get me to positive 45, which would be negative 9. Now, if I rewrote this, this would be negative 5 times x plus negative 9.